Today, we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the M-VAVE ANN Black Box. We're going to compare it to a competitor and do some serious analysis on the quality of the amp captures and the effects. So, you know what that means. It's time to put on your lab coats because we're doing science, bitch! What's up, guitar nerds? Welcome back to the lab. My name is Cameron. If you don't know me, I have been a professional musician and guitarist for over 20 years. I've toured this whole country with bands of my own and as a hired gun. You can find my work on video games, TV shows, and countless albums. Now, I own this guitar lab, and I do guitar things. This is Mrs. Stevenson. She actually owns the lab, and she sits over on that chair all day and micromanages me. So today we're going to take a deep dive on the M-VAVE ANN Black Box. This is a modeler pedal. It has amp capture technology and some effects built into it, kind of in line with the Tonex, Kemper, Neural DSP, Headrush products, but at a much lower price. You can pick these up for 80 bucks shipped, but are they any good? So today we're going to take a closer look at them, specifically from a Mac user's perspective. We're going to compare the quality of the captures to the Tonex today. This particular Tonex is quite a bit more expensive than $80, but one of the closest competitors to the Black Box would be the Tonex 1, which is not even quite twice the price of the ANN Black Box retail value. So can it hold its own? We're going to dig in. First, let me make it clear that I have not been paid to make this video. I don't know anyone from M-VAVE. And in this case, while some companies do actually send me things to check out and review, M-VAVE did not even send me this. I purchased this with my own money. And regardless of any of those things, I guarantee you, you will always get my honest evaluation of any gear we check out on this show. So today we're going to take a DI guitar track and we are going to reamp it through the UST replay box. We're going to reamp the exact same guitar snippet through the real amplifier, through the ANN Black Box, and through the Tonex. And we are going to compare the quality of these and see which one gets closest to the amp. And at the end of this, we're going to give you a ranking of the ANN Black Box and let you know where it falls on our scale of best capture technology. Now, before we get started today, I just want to cover a couple of things. First of all, the Los Angeles fires. Our hearts go out to any fellow musicians that were affected by the fire, and we're trying to figure out what we could do to help out. So what we've decided to do is starting January 19th through the end of the month, all profits from any sales of our Thornwood 100 profiles. That's a Sir PT 100 amp pack. Go check it out. It's an awesome pack. All profits from those sales from the 19th through the end of the month, as well as our new We're Doing Science t-shirt, any profits from those t-shirts, and anyone who joins our Patreon, anyone who joins the harmonic order from the 19th through the end of the month, all of that money we are going to donate to the NAMM Foundation's LA Wildfires Relief Fund. Now, of course, we'll be at NAMM this week, so if you're there, find me, let's hang out. I would love to meet you. Please donate. Please buy an amp pack, please buy a t-shirt, whatever it is that you can do to help. Maybe you don't own a Tonex or a Kemper or anything like that. Well, we have NAMM profiles as well. NAMM's free. Buy a NAMM profile, download the NAMM player, and play with that. All of your money will be going to help musicians that are affected by the LA wildfires. There are people that have lost everything, and as musicians, we really do need to take care of one another. Also, let me talk about the harmonic order for a minute. This is our community. It's not just me, this is all of us. Please join the harmonic order, get involved. In addition to access to session files and our community chats and the things we're doing in the harmonic order, you get access to any of the captures we use in our videos. So today we're going to be using a Thornwood 100 profile. We'll be using it for Tonex and for ANN Black Box. If you're a member of the harmonic order, you get those for free. If you're a member of our higher tier, the High Council of the harmonic order, you get free access to all of our digital products. You get every single amp pack and all of the plugins. And I'll tell you right now, it's going to be a big year for Six String Lab. We have some very cool things in the works. We have some plugins that are going to drop, and we've got hardware alliances in the works. We've got big stuff happening, we want you involved in that. We want you to get previews of that. We want you to have free access to these things. So if you were ever looking for the perfect time to join the harmonic order, it's in the next week or so. So we welcome you with open arms. All right, so let me set the tone for the way we're going to approach looking at the ANN Black Box today. I'm a Mac user, a longtime Mac user. I have only ever owned one Windows machine in my entire life, and it was a gaming machine I built to play Steam. I don't currently have a Windows machine. I don't plan on buying a Windows machine. I certainly didn't want to buy a Windows machine just to use the ANN Black Box. So we went on an adventure finding workarounds. How can we make the ANN Black Box work for us as a Mac user? I think that this could be a great budget option, but all of a sudden it's not a budget option if you got to buy a new computer to work with it, right? So it's got to work with Mac for me. And it's going to be a bumpy ride today. First of all, their capture software is not supported on Mac. There is no Mac software for captures. The software you use to update the ANN Black Box, Windows only. So there's actually an update for these. I don't have it. I'm on whatever this shipped with. I can't install the firmware upgrade. So that's where we're sitting with that right now. And then, issues with the library software, finding workarounds to load profiles onto the ANN Black Box, and finding, it was a really cool workaround for us to make captures without having to buy a Windows machine. So I think we're going to go ahead and get to it. We're going to start with some listening tests. We're just going to listen and see what this thing sounds like compared to the Tonex and the real amp. Then I'm going to show you how you can make captures using a Mac. And then after that, our favorite part, we are going to dig into the analysis, all of that data. We're going to look at the graphs, and we are going to run our ranking script and let you know exactly where the ANN Black Box ranks compared to the Tonex. So this is going to be exciting. Grab some headphones, get a coffee, and let's get to it. Okay, so what we've done here is I've recorded multiple samples. We're comparing this to the Tonex. And so what I've done here is the order in which these will go is Black Box first, Real Amp for comparison, then Tonex for comparison. I have a Black Box DI capture using 6-string lab impulse response. Then I have the Real Amp DI with the same impulse response. And for the Real Amp, we've just put amplitude on this track. We've turned off everything except the impulse response loader, and we've loaded the same impulse response we have on the Black Box. And then we have Tonex also loading the same IR using the Tonex profile. After that, we have Black Box DI using the amplitude IR loader. You'll see why here shortly. Then we have the Black Box profile, including a cabinet, the Real Amp using the cabinet, the Tonex profile using the cabinet, so on and so forth. Then we do a clean with IR with all three. Then we do a clean using a stomp box in front. We're using the JHS Morning Glory to see how each of these would respond differently to using a distortion effect in front of them. And so what we'll do is I'm going to shut up and we're going to just play through these and let you do some critical listening. And I'll pop up on the screen what we're listening to while it's playing so you can easily see, oh, this is what it is. So no blind test today. I just want to, compare each of these and find out, what sounds closer to the real amplifier, the Tonex or the Black Box. So let's go ahead and get started. So first we're doing impulse response, then we're doing cab included profile, and then we're doing a clean with impulse response, and then we're doing the JHS Morning Glory in front. So here we go. so there we have the Black Box, the real amplifier, and the Tonex all using the same impulse response. Now I want you to listen real quick to the Black Box using Amplitude as the IR loader instead of the built-in convolution. So let's hear that, and I'll play the built-in IR right after, and we'll go back and forth. I just wanted you to hear these two. So that was the Black Box using the Amplitude IR loader. Here's the Black Box with its built-in IR loader. So that's really hard to hear. You definitely need some headphones on, and you really got to listen for it. But there is something different. It's the exact same IR. I take that back. It's not the exact same IR. The ANN Black Box uses 24-bit 44.1 kilohertz. So it has a lower sampling rate than we're using in this project. In this project, we're using the same IR, but at a 48 kilohertz sampling rate. And that shouldn't make any difference. That's not the difference. I think what's happening is whatever software, whatever algorithm they're using for their IRs, that convolution algorithm, is just different. And this brought up an idea I want to do maybe in the future is test IR loaders against one another and see, what the differences might be. There's definitely something just very, very, very slightly funky going on with the IR loader built into the Black Box. Almost unnoticeable, but it is there. Now we will continue on. We're going to the cab included profile, starting with the Black Box, then the real amplifier, then the Tonex. So there was the profiles with the cabinet profiled along with it. It is worth noting that it is a completely different capture than the first three we heard. That DI capture is different from this capture entirely. Different settings on the amplifier and everything. So we're not listening to real cab versus IR. That's not a fair comparison in this case because it's two completely different amplifier settings. But there were those three compared with the cabinet included in the capture. And I don't know about you, but we're almost halfway through here and things are sounding pretty good for the Black Box. Like, I am impressed more than I thought I would be by far. But let's move on to the clean profiles. All right, there were the clean profiles. And again, they're all sounding good. Blackbox is definitely punching above its weight class in the capture department. Absolutely. So last but not least, we're throwing a dirt box in front of each of them using the JHS Morning Glory, and we'll see how it compares using effects in front. So that's interesting. Each of these, so the black box, the real amplifier, and the Tonex, they all respond differently to having the dirt box in front of it. None of them are particularly bad in any way. They're just different. The black box to me does seem to accentuate some of the high-end harshness that is coming from that distortion pedal, that overdrive pedal, excuse me. But not terrible, just different. I actually want to listen to these one more time and really, listen and try to pinpoint the differences we're hearing because they are all slightly different. They all do different things. Okay, so there was our listening test. I think the black box has fared excellently. Just very impressive how well it's done. It sounds so close to the real amplifier. It sounds so close to the Tonex. I mean, the Tonex and the black box have done a great job with these captures. Biggest differences being when we throw a distortion pedal in front of it, but still each of them, very good, very usable. So anyway, let's keep moving on. All right, so making profiles for the Ann Black Box. Making Ann profiles, very similar to like what Neural Amp Modeler does in that you're going to take your source track. So in this case, we're using a DI guitar track. That some of you are probably familiar with. And then we're going to send that out to a reamp box to our amplifier, and then we record the signal from the amplifier back into the DAW, basically giving us our reamped track. So we have our dry DI signal, and then we have that signal amplified through the amplifier that we want to profile. And then essentially what you do is you provide both of those files to the capture trainer. So you'll upload both of those, and then the neural network, the AI portion of it, will essentially listen to the DI track, and then it will, listen to the reamped track, and it learns the differences in each of those signals, and that is how it creates your capture. So on this first track here, if we solo that out and take a listen, what we've got is a dry DI crazy noise guitar track. So there is just a DI guitar, and then we reamped that, and that ends up sounding like like this. So that's a DI reamp. So we sent the DI signal out to an amplifier, and then we put the amplifier into a reactive load box. In this case, we used the Fractal X load, which is actually one of my favorite reactive load boxes, by the way. They're awesome. But then we just we reamped that direct guitar signal. So what we want to do is give these files to the ANN trainer. And you may have noticed when I played you those files, one of them was panned hard left, one of them was panned hard right. And that is because ANN wants a stereo file. And the left track should be your DI track and your source signal, and the right track should be your reamped signal. So in our case, when I recorded these, of course, they're mono. And then what we've done is we've panned the source track hard left, and we panned the reamped track hard right. And then you'll want to export this stereo file as 16-bit. That's important because most are 24-bit, but this is 16-bit 48 kilohertz. So you want to export a stereo file that is 16-bit 48 kilohertz. So since the cloning software does not work on Macintosh, I had to find a workaround for this, and I did. I did some searching. I found a guy that had essentially provided an executable for ANN that you can run in Google Colab. So what you do is you use this notebook here. Google Colab is just an online tool from Google that lets you basically run Python, and you can install the PyTorch libraries and use Google's compute resources to do your machine learning work. And so this is great for creating ANN profiles. And I will share the links to get this executable file along with some instructions as well. So in the video description, you can find all of the stuff we're working with here. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to create a new folder. And this folder needs to be named the exact same thing as the WAV file that you exported, the exact same name. So in our case, it's 6SL Thornwood. This will be 000C and trainer. So now we're just going to come find our WAV file, and we're going to upload that to Google Colab. And you'll see down here, it's uploading that WAV file for us. Then the other thing you need to do is upload this ANN executable file that I was telling you about. You'll be able to find that and these instructions in the video description below. So you'll upload the ANN executable to the root of the folder, create a folder with the same name as your WAV file, and upload your WAV file. And then we're going to go over here and we'll create a code block. And you can see you'll just hit code, and then in that code block you want to put these commands, and these commands are also in the instructions. So basically we are changing the permissions on the directory to it's got all permissions. It's basically just so that the system's able to execute this file. And then we are going to say, okay, run the ANN executable, and we're going to say run it on this file, which is our file here. It's pointing to this folder, but it's going to look for a WAV file by the same name in that folder, and that's why they need to be named the same thing. So you just say run this then on the name here, and then how many times, basically the epochs, how many times is it going to run this? And from a bunch of messing around, I have found that 100 seems to be the sweet spot for ANN. If you go much lower than that, then the ESR doesn't get as good as it can get. If you go too much more than 100, it won't get much better, and you'll eventually run into errors, which gives you essentially an unusable profile. So 100 seems to be the sweet spot, but you'll have to play around and see what works best for you. But so we just say ANN run this file and check it out 100 times, and then you just hit the play button. Oh, really? Okay, so unfortunately I had to go off camera for a minute and do some research. As you can see, trying to run the training is giving us an error. The script is unable to find the NumPy library, which is a Python library that this training script uses. So I had to get off, do some research real quick. It looks like Google Colab may have done some updates on the back end, and the ANN executable is no longer compatible with the Google Colab runtime, unfortunately. Luckily for us, a week or so ago when I made these initial models that we're looking at, it was working. So I did some research. It looks like some other people are having the same problem. No word from M-VAVE yet what they're going to do about it, if they're going to do anything about it. I did spend a little bit of time. I tried to decompile the executable. It didn't have a ton of luck. If we had the source code, I could debug this and fix this and we could move on. Unfortunately, they're trying to keep this proprietary, so we're going to just have to wait for them to fix it. So here's my call to M-VAVE. Open source the trainer. It's only going to be good for you. We could have a whole community working on this. So I can't show you the rest of the process in Google Colab. Hopefully this gets fixed soon and this will still be helpful. Hopefully this doesn't just go away. But when you hit this, about 10 minutes later, the training would be done, and then in a folder on the left, you would have your AM2 file. And then you could just download that file. In my case, I airdropped that to my iPhone and then load it into the M-VAVE box. It's really pretty fast compared to other neural trainers, and it does a really good job in that time. So that's exciting because it does seem to do a good job. But unless you're on a Windows machine with a large, nice GPU, it's not going to be fun for you to make captures. If you're running a good RTX card on Windows, then you can use that ANN training software and probably have no problems. But if you're on a Mac, or if you're on an older, slower Windows machine, or like a slower Windows laptop, the training is going to take a long time on that Windows machine, and you really would benefit from this Google Colab being able to generate the captures for you. As you can see here, we're using a T4 runtime. That's got lots of GPU power. So even those of you with decent, RTX cards, Google Colab's probably faster. So unfortunately, we can't watch the rest of that, but all it was just watching the process happen and downloading the file. So once this gets fixed, everything we've done up until here is valid, and then you would just download the .am2 file. All right, now for the fun stuff. As you can see, we've taken some measurements with REW of each of these. The blue line is the real amplifier, the red line is the Tonex, and the green line is the Blackbox. Now, these measurements are through a cab included profile, so not a DI profile. These are the profiles with the cab included. And just comparing these visually, I've got them separated so we can look at them, but you can see Tonex and the ANN are very, very close, very similar. Things to note, Tonex with the cab does some interesting things throughout the low, mid, and mid frequencies, where the real amp is much smoother. Other things to note, the real amp is a much smoother drop off in the high end. Tonex, as we already know from other tests, Tonex always goes a little crazy in the high end. But again, this high end, these frequencies they're not really guitar frequencies, so you're gonna roll these off and not hear them. They're already kind of rolling themselves off, but when you're recording, you'll additionally roll them off, or if you're playing live, in front of house, it's gonna roll them off as well. But same thing with the ANN capture, goes really weird in the high end. But again, it's kind of like, does it matter? Probably not. You're not going to hear it. And then got this one weird little dip right here, about 5.5K. It's worth noting, interesting to note. So what we're going to do now, if you've watched any of our other comparison videos, you know we like to take the actual data from these measurements and run that through a script that we've created at 6 String Lab that'll rank these and let us know which one is closest to the original amplifier. That script is free and open source, and it's available on our GitHub if you want to use it and play with it. The link will be in the video description below. And so I've already exported the data for these captures, and we're just going to run that script and get our rankings. So what we've all been waiting for, right? So let's go ahead, and our cab included comparisons, the rankings are, let's see, so the ANN Black Box was 97.95% similar to our baseline, which is the real amp. So it is almost 98% similar to the real amplifier. The Tonex with the cab included is about 98.5% similar to the baseline. So Tonex wins this one, but I am telling you right now, 97.95% is incredibly good. If you've watched any of our other videos doing these comparisons, you'll know, like I said in the past, Tonex, you can pretty much always count on Tonex to beat out 98%. And my minimum quality baseline before I would make a capture available for anyone and try to claim it's a capture of a particular amp, for me it's about 97%, 97.5% is where people start really failing to tell the difference between the real amp and the model. So we have like a 97% quality cutoff, and the ANN with cab included has exceeded that. So, and you know, we did our listening test. You can see it sounds very, very close. These are good captures that I've been getting out of ANN so far. So very cool. All right, let's go ahead and go back here. And so now we have our DI profiles open. So this is just the amp itself, no speaker included. This is our analysis data. And as you can see, once again, they are all very similar. They follow at least the same general frequency response. The real amp, of course, being a little smoother and less crazy. I do have something going on in the very high end, about 13K. Otherwise, a very smooth frequency response out of the SIR on a higher gain setting. But yeah, they're all very similar for sure. The Black Box seems to interpret some of the lower end. It's almost like it just has a predetermined curve it's going to put in there. Doesn't quite follow exactly the real amp or what Tonex was able to pretty closely follow there. But again, all very close. And again, I have already exported the data from these comparisons, and we're going to go ahead and run our script once again. And let's see. Okay, here is the DI comparison ranking for ANN. And we have got, oh man, we have got 99.5% similarity to the real amp from ANN. And we have 99.72% similarity to the baseline for Tonex. Excellent, excellent results for ANN. It really is making great profiles. I am super impressed. These are both, both above 99%. I think you'll find this with most modelers, especially, the neural network, AI, machine learning models. They do a really good job, or they do a better job of DI profiles than they do of cab included profiles. You'll always get closer to the DI signal than when you try to include a cab in the capture. I don't know why this is, that's just how it is. So you should keep that in mind. Maybe a DI profile with a good IR is going to get you closer to the real amplifier. But the thing you have to keep in mind about IRs is, while they sound good, similarity to the speaker they're trying to emulate, the impulse responses don't do as good. In fact, we should do a ranking video and show you the difference in IRs to a real speaker. Some very interesting, cool stuff coming up Neutron has been working on speaker models. Instead of impulse responses, they're actually using neural networks to model the speaker itself. So it's going to use a lot more processing power, but they're claiming above 99% accuracy to a speaker with speaker profiles. So I'm going to deep dive on that here real soon. We're going to find out all about it and see how it does. So, you know, with a speaker model at above 99% similarity to the real speaker and a DI model above 99% similarity to the real amplifier, we're getting into territory where we're really doing cool stuff in the digital world. And then there's other things like I think Sturgis Tones has a plugin that kind of adds the randomness back. You put it after your IR. You know, in the real world, a tube amp is not linear. If you play the same chord exactly the same way twice, the amp's not going to reproduce that chord the same way twice. They're a nonlinear system, same with speakers. So Sturgis Tones and others are making plugins to add that nonlinearity back into the system. So I think we're going to get really soon, my prediction is we're going to get to the point where you have an amp capture that is nearly 100% accurate to the real amplifier. Then you're going to have a speaker capture that is nearly 100% identical to the speaker that you're really capturing. And then you add the nonlinearity back in. I think you're going to see all of that get put into one system, and it's a really fun time to be involved with guitar in the digital world. I'm going to do some deep dives on that here soon. I'm really looking forward to it. So this has been a good time. Unfortunately, it seems like the Colab web page trainer for Ann is currently broken, at least at the time of making this video. Hopefully that gets fixed up real soon. Okay, so what did you think of that? I'll tell you what, the capture technology, the Ann captures are phenomenal. It blew me away. I never for 1 second did I think they were going to be that authentic to the amp that you were capturing. The IR loader seems to be just, it doesn't sound bad, it's just a little funky compared to other IR loaders. But the elephant in the room, if you're a Mac user, is the user experience. And if I could give that a negative, in fact, I am going to give it a negative rating. M-VAVE, Mac user's perspective on your Ann Black Box, negative 1,000 stars. Won't mess with it again. You've got to get this stuff updated. At least fix the web page capture creation. I would love to make more profiles for people to use on the Ann Black Box. I don't even have a way to do it right now without buying a Windows machine. So, Windows users, I hope you have a much better experience. And if you are a Windows user, I will say that this is worth 80 bucks. Like plain and simple, it's definitely worth 80 bucks. If you're a Mac user, forget about it. M-VAVE needs to get it together. And that about wraps it up for today, guys. We'll be at NAMM. Come find us. Buy the Thornwood 100 profiles. Buy the Doing Science t-shirt. Join the Harmonic Order. Please, it really does help a ton. We still have more science episodes coming up. One I'm super excited about. We're going to compare and scientifically rank all of the capture boxes, or at least nearly every single one of them. There might be just one or two absent, but we're going to do the Ann profiles, the Tonex profiles, the NAMM profiles, the Kemper profiles, the Neural DSP profiles, the Hotone profiles. We're going to get into it, and we're going to give you a scientifically backed ranking of which of these do the best, the most authentic captures. So that's going to be a very fun video. So please come back. Can't wait to see you again.